In this video, we're going to talk about 5 psychology basics that are going to help you understand what's going on in your team. What's behind "we've always done it this way," what makes people try less over time, why we keep throwing good money after bad or sticking with a bad plan, what is groupthink, and what does it mean when the team makes the same mistake over and over again. Most of us have experienced the coworker or coworkers who just can't stop talking about how good things used to be, which is usually associated with "we've always done it this way, and this is why we should continue to do it this way." But it's important for you to remember or to know that people remember experiences largely based on the peak level of the experience, or the best it ever was, or the end. So when people remember the end, they've already done all this work and training and familiarization, so they kind of forget how ugly it was in the beginning. Whereas that might not be where you are with a team. You might be onboarding new people and getting there. And the peak experience is largely associated with emotion too. So you had a big win in the sales team, or you had a big profitable year and everybody got big bonuses or something like that. It's largely tied to emotion. We remember things that were emotional when they happened. So 9/11 is a good example. Everybody remembers where they were on 9/11. 9/8, no clue. So how do you deal with people that are constantly talking about how good things used to be? If it can be shown in data, or you have customer data, profitability, that kind of thing, that's one way to do it. But if it's just verbalizing how good things used to be, it's probably best just to kind of let people get that out. But understand, as the leader, the reason they're largely doing that is because remembering the peak and the end of the experience. How do people try less over time, and 5 things you can do to help that? We adjust our behavior based on our perception of risk. So, for example, if we feel threatened, then we're going to take more conservative approaches. We're going to take measures to protect ourselves. A lot of times what this looks like in the workplace is a decrease in productivity or creativity. So you're not going out and taking as many chances on things that you would have if you felt safe or psychologically safe. So here's 5 things to watch for. Number 1, how do you react to mistakes? If somebody does something incorrectly, is your reaction harsh because you think that if you are harsh, they won't make that same mistake again? If so, you're probably having the opposite effect. Number 2 is being vague about goals. You might think we don't need to put that 3-year plan together, or 5-year or 1-year plan together. People understand what to do. Well, they may understand what to do on a daily basis, but if they don't know where the organization is going, that can be stressful. That can cause people to doubt whether they're going to have a job in 6 months or a year. So get those goals out so people know where they're going, and then show the progress toward the goal as well. Number 3, not communicating purpose. If people don't understand the why of the organization, then they're not going to understand where their efforts are best used. On the other hand, when people do understand the why, that allows them to do things on their own that meet the same intent or the same purpose of the organization. Number 4, comparison culture. Comparison culture is when you're not treating people like the individuals they are. You're holding up one or a select few number of individuals and saying, why can't everybody be like Steve or Mary? Look how hard they work. Look how busy they are. So you might think that you're motivating people by comparing them to these rock star performers. What's happening when you do this is you're really demoralizing your solid performers. You're giving them more reasons to not take the extra step. People want you to see them and treat them as individuals. And then not engaging with real feedback. This is a hard one for a lot of people, to have that one-on-one discussion on how things are going. But when you don't do that, people can assume the worst. They can assume, well, Mike doesn't want to talk to me. He's not happy with what I'm doing. And why is that? And then they kind of clam up and they play it safe. So why do people try less over time? It has to do with their perception of the risk. And take a look at how you might be contributing to that. Why do we keep throwing good money after bad, or reinforcing failure instead of success? We've all been in a situation where things don't go correctly initially, but we keep at it. We keep reinforcing and we keep doing the same things over and over again, even though they're not working. And part of the reason that we're doing that is we think, well, we've already invested this much time or this much money. We got to keep at it. Sunken costs. But the thing to remember about sunken costs, or we've already invested this much time and effort, is that the circumstances for the future are not based on the circumstances of what has already happened. In other words, what happens in the future doesn't have anything to do with what's already happened. And a good example of this is gambling. Maybe you're at the roulette wheel and you've lost $500 and you think, well, my time is coming. But if you stop and think about it, where the ball lands on a roulette wheel is totally random. It has nothing to do with what happened over the last 2 hours. But we rationalize this because we think, well, our time is coming. And that's not necessarily true. In the roulette example, if that was true, then nobody would ever lose. You just keep playing. So the next time, and this is hard to do, but the next time you are considering whether to stay with the plan or shift gears, just think about, has anything changed in the past that will make success in the future more of a possibility? If not, then just sticking with the old plan is not going to ensure success. Groupthink, you may have heard this, it's not a slang term. There's a lot of research behind it. Groupthink isn't about numbers of people, it's more about how influential the people are. But the effect on the group is that harmony is more important than rational decision-making, or input, or challenge. Teams with groupthink in play are not using real problem-solving strategies. They're keeping the peace. They're not encouraging controversial views because, again, the most important thing is that we're all getting along and agreeing. How do you detect this? You have a meeting, you have a presentation, questions at the end, there's no questions. And most organizations probably do have some level of groupthink, but in most cases, it's probably not what's going on. But that's very rare that everybody is totally aligned on the goals. Groupthink could be good in some ways. If everything's totally aligned with the goals and the core values, maybe there is nothing to bring up or challenge. But in most cases, it's probably not the case. More likely than not, you got people trying to keep the peace over trying to get better. Or you have total apathy where people just don't care. Groupthink, watch out for it. Pay attention to how engaged people are. In a meeting of 10 people, you should have 8 or 9 or maybe even all 10 people participating. If you don't, then you got some groupthink going on there. Why do we keep making the same mistakes in 5 things that you can watch for? If you're leading a team and you're making the same mistakes over and over again, it's a big red flag. First thing it could mean is you don't have a real learning loop. People make the same mistakes, the lesson is not captured, and we do it again. So you have to ask why we're not learning that lesson. Is it simple as not writing it down, or do people just not care? Weak learning loop. Second one is people have a fear of speaking up. We talked about this a little bit. Why don't they want to speak up? Are they apathetic? Do they not care? Or is there groupthink at work? They don't think they can go against the grain? Or are you making the environment so risky that it's better for them just to keep their mouths shut, keep their job, and go on? So a lot of times when we have harsh reactions, we're creating this situation, we don't even realize it. But why aren't people speaking up? Accountability gaps, it's a big one. It's not just a matter of telling people they're accountable. People need to feel accountable. And to me, that starts with very clear roles and responsibilities. You're in charge of this, you're in charge of that. Sounds easy. People drift into things that they like doing, or it doesn't seem like that big a deal for us to do a little bit of somebody else's job. Clear roles and responsibilities, that's going to help your accountability issue. Number 4, overemphasis on speed. If your team thinks, well, the faster we move, the faster things get done, the happier my customers are going to be. But the problem there is you don't involve the right people. You don't take as rigorous or thorough of a look at the problem at hand. And in the end, it's not faster because you're going to go back to involve those people or correct mistakes. Smooth is fast is the Marine Corps expression. And in that is pausing to learn as you go. If you're moving too fast, you're not going to do that. And then 5, cultural blind spots. This is the way we used to do it. People remember the peak experience or the end of an experience. So when people say we've always done it this way, it may not be an objective analysis of the situation at hand. It may be just going with the flow. It may, in fact, not be how we've always done it. So pay attention to those 5 aspects when your team makes the same mistakes over and over again. It's a big deal. So there's 5 psychological basics that's going to help you take a look at your team and try to decipher what's going on when things don't seem to be on track. What does it mean when people say we've always done it this way, or talking about how much better things were in the past? They remember the peak experience and the end of the experience. Why do people try less? Take a look at how risky of an environment that you create as the leader. Why we keep throwing good money after bad or sunken costs. Groupthink is a real thing. Why does it exist and how do you address it? Promote getting better over harmony or just getting along. And then what does it mean when your team makes the same mistakes over and over again? The 5 things. Hope this video was helpful to you. If you like this, I post stuff like this all the time. Centerdesk.com, that's my website. If there's a problem that you're dealing with your team, would love to hear it. I'll make a video. Thanks.